Welcome to Plain Facts. This has been a monsoon of extremes in India. Parts of the country have been submerged with floods. Other parts are suffering from droughts. Over the next few years, scientists expect these type of extreme events to increase in frequency because of climate change. In this week's story, the final part of a 5-part series on climate change and the environment, we looked at what India can do to tackle climate change. There are many challenges to tackle, but we highlight 4 that are especially prominent. Challenge number 1: the politics of global climate change policy. Climate change is a global issue, but India's contribution to climate change has been marginal. Half of all carbon dioxide emissions since 1751 have come from the United States and Europe, according to data from the Global Carbon Project. These countries got rich through unregulated industrialization, but in the process have inflicted collateral damage on poorer nations who are most affected by climate change. The poorer countries have sought to address these inequities using international climate change negotiations. In the latest Paris Agreement signed in 2015, the 186 signatory countries have made different promises to limit global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees centigrade over pre-industrialization levels. According to the Climate Action Tracker, an international research unit tracking climate change policy, India is doing better than most countries in meeting the Paris target. India will need to work with the world to ensure a fair and effective climate policy. Challenge number 2: reducing coal dependency. While global coordination is important, an obvious area for domestic attention is coal. About 68% of India's greenhouse gas emissions come from energy production, which largely relies on coal power plants. The government is investing heavily in renewable energy, but analysts reckon integrating renewable energy into India's grid can be costly, and coal will remain the biggest energy source for the foreseeable future. The International Energy Agency estimates that only by 2040 will non-coal sources account for half of all electricity generation in India. Challenge number 3: reforming climate insensitive agriculture policy. Our current price support system for farmers, combined with electricity and fertilizer subsidies, encourages them to grow water-intensive crops such as paddy and sugarcane, even if their land is ill-suited to do in states like Punjab. These subsidies are costly, both fiscally, around 1% of the GDP, and in terms of the environment. Rice is the most grown cereal despite its significant carbon footprint. Given this, many analysts have encouraged farmers to move to other non-water intensive crops such as maize, millets, or sorghum and become more efficient in water management. Challenge number 4: balancing growth and the environment. Ultimately, tackling climate change is a balancing act between economic growth and the environment, especially in terms of the future. Current policies seek to maximize GDP, which does not capture the potential for future prosperity entirely. An alternative is the UN's Inclusive Wealth Index, which tries to address this tension between the present and the future. It captures different types of capital: produced capital such as infrastructure, human capital such as education, and natural capital such as forests. On this measure, India's wealth grew much more slowly compared to GDP between 1990 and 2014. Even larger economies that grew significantly, such as China and the US, did so at the expense of natural resources. Finally, the onus need not be only on the state. Citizens too can play a role by making systemic changes like using public transport or moving away from water-intensive crops such as rice. In principle, more Indians are concerned about the environment than in the past, with 58% of Indians prioritizing it according to the latest World Values Survey. But in practice, whether or not these priorities will manifest in lifestyle choices remains to be seen. Addressing these 4 challenges will be critical for India to mitigate the impact of climate change. For more plain fact stories, please visit livemint.com/topic/plain-facts.